Welcome to the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts, and this is the meeting of August 17, 2020. This is 9 a.m. Board members can attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. I think everyone is here, so this is my call to order. First item in the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Supervisor McLeod to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance as he is closest to the flag.
Thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, the next item is call to the public. And as a reminder to everyone, because last time I forgot to mention that, the call to the public will remain open during the whole meeting in case we need to open it up again, in case somebody's late or there's something that we miss. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and a decision at a future date. Anyone who's concerned about COVID-19 and does not want to be put into an open setting can submit an email to call to the public statement at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. These email forms of public comments will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any emails? All right, then, as a reminder again, call to the public will remain open throughout the whole meeting, so in case we need to address something we forgot, we can always discuss it. Not discuss it, excuse me, I shouldn't have said that. We can always bring it up. The next item on the agenda is presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. No legal actions will be taken. Are there any appointments? No? Then we'll move on to the presentation of Yuma County Quarterly, oh, wait a minute. Quarterly Safety Excellence Award by County Administrator Susan Thorpe. Good morning, Susan. This is it's very blue today, huh?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. I'm pleased to recognize the nominees for Yuma County's Safety Excellence Award for the fourth quarter of the last fiscal year, which is April through June of 2020. The award recognizes county employees who consistently promote safety in the workplace. Any employee can nominate another employee for a quarterly or annual award. Nominations are screened for eligibility, and a committee of staff members selects the award recipient from the eligible nominations. We recognize our nominees in the U-Count newsletter. They receive a certificate of achievement, a safety challenge coin, and a commemorative safety mug. All nominees are eligible for the annual safety award in conjunction with our employee appreciation ceremony. And the winner each quarter receives a $100 cash prize. The annual award winner receives $250 and a plaque. So this quarter, I'm pleased to recognize 5 nominees. And we do not have them here present today. We're having a little different approach. They are Daniel Salcido, Juvenile Court, Don Jacobs, Public Works.
Slow down. There we go.
Donette Villegas, Adult Probation. Eric Ontiveros, Public Works. And Miguel Saldana in Juvenile Court. So we appreciate their nomination. First, let me talk about Daniel Salcedo. Daniel is the Network Systems Administrator for Juvenile Court. He's been in this position for over 4 years and with Yuma County for over 14 years. Daniel regularly conducts safety checks of work areas throughout Juvenile Court for potentially hazardous conditions. The job at times will take him under desk where he meticulously binds cables together with Velcro strips, cleaning up any possible trip hazards. To address the impact of COVID-19, Daniel quickly and efficiently stepped in to equip juvenile court staff with the technology and access they needed to work remotely. He acquired the software, hardware, and VPN access for security. This was quite an effort because prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, few, if any, of the staff were equipped to work remotely. Daniel's fast action and hard work enabled juvenile court staff to maintain a high level of productivity while simultaneously working to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Next, I would like to recognize Don Jacobs. Don is an equipment operator in Public Works. He has served in this position and worked for Yuma County for almost 5 years. Don demonstrates a genuine concern for equipment and vehicle safety. On many occasions, he has reported and demonstrated a safety concern on Public Works equipment and/or heavy and light trucks to our fleet management staff and assisted them with a resolution by doing quality test driving to ensure the equipment is running safely and properly. Don has set a positive example for his coworkers and has developed a reputation in the shop for performing thorough pre-trip inspections and documenting any safety-related vehicle issues so they can be addressed quickly. Next, I'd like to recognize Donette Villegas. Donette is an executive assistant in adult probation. She has served in her current position for over 9 years and has worked for Yuma County for 15 years. One example of Donette's commitment to safety is her outreach and assistance related to cloth face masks. Donette took an opportunity to meet with an employee from another department to show her how to sew face masks because that employee wanted to do something to help during this time. Donette not only taught her the skills, but also loaned her own sewing machine to the employee for this project. The fellow employee sewed 20 face masks for adult probation staff to help keep them safe. This was a time when masks were impossible to find or buy. Donette's efforts would have gone unknown to the department had the other employee not advised them of her unselfishness. Donette does not seek the spotlight. She enjoys working behind the scenes to make sure people have what they need without expected recognition. Next, I would like to discuss and present to you Eric Ontiveros. Eric is a Technician 2 in Public Works. Eric has served in his current position for 1 year and has worked for Yuma County for more than 8 years. On June 1st at about 1:30 p.m., Eric Ontiveros and Adolfo Lopez were returning to the fleet shop from an assignment when they arrived on scene of a 3-vehicle accident. Eric and Adolfo assisted the occupant of the second vehicle involved who was injured. Eric assisted in stabilizing the occupant until emergency personnel arrived on scene. I need to note that Adolfo Lopez, who also assisted, has not been with the county for at least a year, so he's not eligible. But we want to make sure we recognize his part in stabilizing the injured individual. Next, I'd like to talk about Miguel Saldana. Miguel is a probation aide in juvenile court. Miguel has served in his position for 4 years and has served Yuma County for over 21 years. Wow. At the onset of the pandemic, Miguel took the lead as a court runner. His responsibilities include donning full protective gear and meeting youth and families either at the front door of the courthouse or in the parking lot. He provides them with call-in instructions for court appearances or escorts parents of detained youth into the courtroom using COVID-19 safety protocols. Miguel also mapped out all areas of the courtroom in 6-foot measurements and placed tape markers to ensure CDC-recommended 6-foot rule could be followed at all times. So it's always exciting to share these nominations with you. And I want to thank and commend our nominees for their dedication and service to safety. We have really deserving nominees, and it's always hard to select just one winner. So I also want to encourage employees to nominate a deserving fellow employee for this award for the next quarter. Now, I'm pleased to announce our Safety Excellence Award recipient for the 4th quarter is Donette Villegas. So, So Donette will receive her certificate as the winner this quarter, as well as a nice $100 check. So we'll make sure that Donette gets that at adult probation, and thanks for sharing in this recognition with me.
All right. Let her get to her seat, and we'll then move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
The county's Office of Emergency Management teamed up with other organizations to pull off a 5-day testing blitz event. There's no time like the present for planning, especially when it comes to the flu. And a plan is in place to begin opening doors to county facilities. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Since mid-March, when COVID-19 first made its appearance in Yuma County, it has been the headline. The question on everyone's mind is, when will it stop? And how can I get tested? Although we don't know for certain when this pandemic will be over, we do know that getting tested and identifying positive cases is an important way to stop the spread. That's why Yuma County teamed up with the Arizona Department of Emergency Management, the City of Yuma, and other community partners to hold a testing blitz recently.
People will have that opportunity to come get tested and determine whether we're still having the issues with people testing positive. Gives an opportunity for those who do test positive to recognize that and to self-isolate so they don't pass it or spread it on to either family members or those who they work with or they come in contact with.
The Yuma Civic Center parking lot gave everyone an excellent venue for the Testing Blitz event. Coordinated by the Yuma County Office of Emergency Management, pulling together a 5-day event like this took a lot of teamwork. If you missed the Blitz event, don't worry. There are still opportunities to get tested nearly every day in Yuma County. Visit yumacountyaz.gov and click on the COVID Update banner at the top of the page. Testing centers are listed within the downloadable daily update. Just choose either English or Spanish to download. And as the COVID numbers seem to be dropping in Yuma County, we certainly can't let our guard down, especially as the influenza season is upon us. The Health District wants to remind everyone to plan on getting a flu shot when the season begins. Getting a flu shot should be part of your annual wellness routine, and especially while coronavirus is still in the community, which could make a comeback this fall.
You know, every year we do get so many cases, so many people coming down with, the influenza. And this year, especially when I try to, avoid having more people hospitalized for flu on top of COVID.
Stay tuned to your County Line and catch us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll let you know when flu shots are available and also how to make arrangements to get yours. COVID-19 continues to keep some organizations closed to the public, like many of your county government offices. In anticipation of reaching the thresholds in place for reopening, the county has been working on just how we will open once the gating criteria is met. A reopening plan has been in development for nearly 2 months and is being distributed to all county departments and agencies. Much like all other organizations, like businesses and schools, your county government will have a tiered approach to working with the public in person when we're given the go-ahead to open the doors in a way that best keeps everyone safe from spreading COVID-19.
Our reopening plan that was sent out a couple of weeks ago is in line with the CDC guidelines. And so right now we don't meet those criteria to reopen to the public, but we're planning for it and we'd like to have everything in place and start using those kinds of practices with our own employees as they start to return to work from those that were teleworking and joining us here on site in the buildings.
Stay tuned for updates on your County Line and check us out on Facebook and Twitter. When we do get set to reopen our doors, we'll let you know. Even though many county offices are closed to the public, our staff have come up with some creative ways to continue to provide services to the public. Our Safe Kids staff will pilot an informational class designed to help parents use car seats the correct way. Under normal circumstances, these are held in person, but they've devised a plan to continue to serve you. The class teaches participants how to properly use a child restraint in your car and helps determine which seat is safest for your child.
The tricky thing with this is, there's such a high misuse rate with car seats that there's a really strong need to be able to educate parents and caregivers on the correct installation of seats. It's not as simple as just getting them the car seats themselves. We really need to provide that education so that we can get those seats installed correctly.
If you'd like to know more, or just when the next virtual child seat information class will happen, contact the Yuma County Health District at 317-4580.
Hi, my name's Mary, and this is your Health Watch. The WIC program is designed to build a healthier future for America's children. This supplemental nutrition program for pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum women, infants, and children up to age 5 is designed to influence lifetime nutrition and health behaviors. WIC is a free service that saves you money, providing nutritious food, nutrition education, breastfeeding support, including loaned pumps, and referrals to other healthcare and social services. WIC is open and continues to provide contact-free services during the pandemic remotely, by phone, or virtually via Zoom in the comfort of your home. Food benefits that you can redeem at the grocery store are loaded remotely on an eWIC card provided to you. We're excited and ready to serve you remotely. This is all for now. Until next time, stay healthy, Yuma.
It's time once again to recognize county employees who have helped set the standard for safety in your county government. All employees are eligible to be nominated for the Quarterly Safety Excellence Award. This quarter, Donette Villegas, who is an executive assistant in the Adult Probation Office, receives the award. Ms. Villegas has stood out this quarter in large part due to her desire and tenacity to keep her fellow employees safe during this time of COVID. She researched and purchased nearly all PPE needs for the department during the initial response, and she's continued to play an integral role in maintaining supplies. This includes making contact with vendors, finding the right equipment, and ensuring the best price was paid. But even beyond this, Ms. Villegas took the time to train a fellow employee seeking guidance on how to make masks. She not only took the time to teach this person how to make them, she even loaned her personal sewing machine for the project. Over 20 masks were made and delivered to the employees of adult probation. It's Donette's can-do spirit and enthusiasm to help others be a success that help keep the employees of adult probation safer, and that makes her the Safety Employee of the Quarter. Congratulations, Donette Villegas, and thank you for your hard work and dedication. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this County Line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
Okay. All right, that was the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77. We then move on to the consent calendar, where the following items are listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. We have items 1 through 14. I'm pulling item number 4 for brief discussion and item number 11. So, anybody else?
I'd like to pull 13.
13? Okay, so we have items 1 through 14 with the exception of items 4, 11, and 13. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Move to approve.
Been motioned by Supervisor McLeod, seconded by Supervisor Simmons to approve the consent calendar as presented with the exception of items 4, 11, and 13. Right, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to open up item number 4, which is for the Free Library District discussion and possible action pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes to authorize and direct staff to publish the proposed revisions to the Free Library District fines and fee schedule and set September 21st, 2020 at 9 a.m. as the date and time for a public hearing on the matter, to accept public comments and take final action to adopt resolution number 2020-29, revising the fee schedule to supersede all previously adopted fee schedule. Hi,
Hello, Chairman Reyes, members of the board.
your name?
Lisa Mendez, Library Director.
All right. Lisa, the reason I asked that it be pulled out is as I was looking at the item, normally what we like to see is a sort of a comparison between the old fees and the new fees that are being suggested by the board, the library trustee board. When I looked at the red line version, I noticed that the fees for the library card for 6 months went up from 15 to, well, they haven't gone up. I mean, that's the suggestion. Are they asking that it go up to $25 from 15?
For the non-resident cards.
Which are,
So if you are not a resident and you want to use the library services, that's what it is.
How do you-
If you are, live in Yuma, then you can get a free library
I mean, in
card.
Yuma County,
Right.
because
in
Yuma is
County.
Yuma.
So we looked at other libraries across Arizona to see what their non-resident card fees are. And as you know, it's a special revenue fee for the library district. So if you're not living in Yuma, we figure they could pay.
Yuma County.
In Yuma County, sorry. Then they could pay additional fines, pay that fee to use the library district.
Okay, so how do you determine when someone's not a resident? When they become members when they apply?
If they can't prove proof of residence here, then that's when we would know. If their driver's license states their address in Yuma County, then they would get a free library card. But we have lots of visitors that come in for time and they want to use.
And they don't have an Arizona driver's license, so how would they do that?
I'm sorry?
So if they don't have I mean, we got people visiting in the winter from Montana, let's say that, and they've got their Montana driver's license, which is good in Arizona.
Right, but they may have a piece of mail that shows that they are renting or own a place in Yuma. And if they would show that along with the driver's license, then they could use the services for free. So this is someone who does not live in Yuma County.
I see that they went up for a year from $25 to $50. That's a pretty steep increase. What drives that?
So basically, if somebody got for 1 month, it's $5 a month. And like I said, we kind of looked at what other libraries are charging throughout, and that was consistent in what they were. These fines haven't increased for a non-resident card in years.
Go ahead. So, yeah, you want to make a comment? Sure. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
So if you live in El Centro, or you live in Winter Haven, or you're just down here for
A month
or something, then you need
can
to
just pay $5.
Oh, you only pay $5.
Right, so you could either buy a monthly, so if somebody's here for a month, they could just pay $5. But let's say they're here for 6 months, then they're gonna pay $25 if they wanna use the library for that long.
Okay, so it's only $5 a month. Right. Okay, so if I live in Canada and I come down here for 5 months and 30 days, then I can get a library card for $25 for those 5 months and 30 days. Okay.
I still believe that's too steep, and I still don't see. I can see the thought process behind it, but I don't. I mean, the library districts are one of the most well accepted, most well respected, the one people just always raves about. Let's put it that way. We used to think the sheriff's department used to be one of those, but as more people get arrested, well, that changes. But the library is still one of the most popular services we have. And I always thought it was because it's so easy to use it. It's, they're really welcoming and so forth. And I wouldn't mind, lifting it from $15 to $20 or something like that. But going from $25 to $50 a year seemed like like doubling the fee, especially during these difficult times where people may not have many things to do, and we don't have the libraries open anyway, and the way we used to anyway, publicly. So this is not, to me, a good time to be increasing fees on almost anything, including the library.
And again, it's a non-resident fee.
So, I know it's a non-resident
and we do have an electronic card as well that is free, that people can use the electronic resources.
So they could get their Kindle.
Right. For 30 days. They could try out the electronic resources.
Well, like I said, I always looked at libraries as a service to the community. And, to me, the less barriers you put in front of people to use it, the more use it gets and the better off I think it becomes. The most, that's why you're so well liked, I think. Once you start charging $50 a year for someone that may or may be a resident here for 2 months, 3 months, or, from South
And
Central.
again, they can choose, maybe they're only here for a couple months, then it's just $5 a month. Um,
So,
I have a
Go ahead.
question, Mr. Chair. Lisa, does this include computer access? So they would have to pay $5 to be able to use the computers for a
No,
month?
if people come when the library is open and they just want to use the computer, then they would just ask for a computer pass, and so that is free. It's
Okay.
more for checking out
books.
materials. Yes.
Well, like I said, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, there may be no one that complains about it, and it may be, and it's very difficult because when you put it from people outside, it's very difficult for them to complain because they're not from here. So I just wanted to, bring that point across. I'll look at those fees changes, and this is not the year that I would be increasing almost any fee, but you brought it up, so we'll take it up. And this went through the board of trustees, I suppose. Okay, well, all right, we'll publish them. This is the purpose of this item, is to make sure that people have a chance to comment on it. So remember, everyone that's listening, if you have an idea or if you have an opinion about this, this will be your chance. We'll be having that hearing on September what? September 21st. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the item as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been motion and second to approve items 4 as presented. All those in favor, any discussion? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the Arizona authorize the chairman to sign a letter requesting a waiver from the Workforce Arizona Council for a vacancy on the local Workforce Development Board of Arizona at Work, Yuma County, that will extend it more than the 120 days. This was not really a big surprise. I mean, we do have a lot of problems sometimes getting certain representatives to come on board in some of this different workforce development boards. The problem is this is a labor representative. So, and to me, it's really one of those important positions that somebody should be filling, and it feels really odd not to have someone from the labor, from that particular area, not serving there. So although I could have done this on my own, in other words, send a letter on my own, I just wanted to publicly ask anyone that is in that field to sort of volunteer for this. This is a very important board where I think more than any of the other boards that I can think of right now, it'd be important to have someone from that particular field represented there. So this is just I will send a letter asking for the waiver, but I would like to emphasize that we like to have participation from that particular segment of society. Okay? That was it. I just wanted to make that announcement public, where we need someone from the labor, not from the labor department, but from that particular segment. Any comments? Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and second to approve item 11 as presented. Any discussion, any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to item number 13. This will be for engineering. It is to authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2020-28, establishing a one-way control stop at the T intersections of Mohawk Valley Boulevard at County 4th Street, and a modified two-way stop at the intersection of Mohawk Valley Boulevard and Avenue 39E, and establishing a 35 mile per hour speed limit on Mohawk Valley Boulevard between Avenue 39E and County 4th Street. Supervisor Simmons, you asked for this item?
Yes, Chris, here we are again. I know we've spent several meetings out there looking at this intersection, and when it popped up on the agenda, I got several phone calls of people that are still concerned about that northbound stop sign as far as understanding how it's working, especially with the lettuce season fast approaching, which is going to increase that traffic. And I was just wondering if we could look, because we talked about this, that it maybe be an issue, if it keeps the liability covered as far as the county, as far as putting, instead of a stop sign, a yield to cross traffic.
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor Simmons, we can go ahead and continue taking a look at it. Since the stop sign was installed, we have not received any phone calls or concerns about it. So if the board wishes, we can postpone this action on establishing the stop sign, and we can go back and take a look at that.
Either that, or we can go ahead and approve it, but take a look at it, and if it's something we can do and still covering our liability and making it work, we can come back. But
make a judgment. We can do that too, Supervisor Simmons.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve it as presented, but ask that we take a look at it.
All right.
That one stop sign.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the item as presented with the direction given by the board to be followed. Any more discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That takes care of the consent calendar, which makes us get into discussion and possible action items. The board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. Well, the first one is the County Administration Public Health Services District. Discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 updates and activities. The Public Health Director, Diana Gomez, is with us with a very purplish outfit.
We need to get her a permanent seat up here or something.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. So today I'm happy to report that for the second day in a row, we have not had any new deaths reported for Yuma County, which I know is a number that, every loss we have is difficult. It means we're doing a good job overall. If you see our case numbers today, we are actually reporting, yesterday we reported 17 new cases. Today we're reporting, I think as of this morning, we were at 25 new cases. That is with consistent testing. So the testing has remained level. So we are still providing a high level of tests, but the number of positive tests is slowing down. It doesn't mean in any way we need to stop the mitigation strategies that we're doing. It means we need to continue doing what we're doing because it's moving in the right direction. And we really want to do everything we can, and keeping in mind also that in the next few months we're going to be dealing with flu season and all sorts of other stuff. So whatever we can do to get the best head start and make sure we continue doing those mitigation strategies, the better off we'll be. As you know, some schools have gone back and provided some limited instruction. I want the public to know, especially parents, we've been doing updates, regular updates every day, but there is a website that is azhealth.gov/schools-COVID-19. It's a dashboard that is available for schools. The Department of Education has worked with the Arizona Department of Health Services to provide benchmark guidelines to allow the school districts to review those and make decisions about when they can open safely or how they can start transitioning back to in-person instruction. Right now, most schools are providing online instruction with some limited site support, in-person services for children that need that in site-on support. So also, as you know, we had a testing blitz that was led by the Office of Emergency Management and on behalf of the staff and Tony Padilla, the emergency manager. I just wanted to acknowledge, the event ran very smoothly. Results were coming back. We said 2 to 5 days. They were actually coming back in some instances 24 to under 48 hours. So that was really good. And it's a model that we're hoping to duplicate when vaccine time comes around, either flu or when we do have a COVID vaccine. So the event received assistance from Indian Health Services. They operated 7 stations over 5 days. National Guardsmen and volunteers from Indian Health Services, Red Cross, MCAS, Salvation Army, Quezon Emergency Management, as well as multiple Yuma County employees like Public Works. We also had the facility. Thank you to the City of Yuma. City of Yuma staff was there, and they allowed us to use their facility. So it was a true collaborative effort, and it's those kinds of events that facilitate the access to testing. We were hoping to get a very good baseline, so we were encouraging people for this particular event to go, whether you felt just anybody that was interested. It's important for us initially. We were, because of limited supplies, limited PPE, and the delays, we're telling people if you were symptomatic or you thought you'd be exposed, please go get tested for this particular event. We just wanted a cross-sector of the population. It was important for us to just test people across the board so that we could get a good idea of where we were in the community. I know people are looking at those benchmarks for businesses. People are looking for those benchmarks to open schools. So we were really encouraging people to go out there and get tested, whether they were symptomatic or not, to be able to do that. So they tested over 1,000 people. We were hoping for a much higher number, but thank you for all those people that went out there. Thank you for all those people that assisted and made this possible. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out. But again, it was just a true community collaborative effort, so we're very grateful for that. And the numbers came back right away. So what you're seeing in our reporting, so the first set of numbers came in on Wednesday. So the last couple of days that you've seen numbers, those include some of those. The last day was Saturday, so we haven't gotten those reports yet. We anticipate we'll get them today. But if people were looking for a large increase, and we haven't seen it so far, which is good.
Really good.
So it means we have to stay the course and keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully the trend will continue. Do you have any questions I can answer?
Yeah, I do. It's about the blitz, the testing blitz. I heard the word baseline or something like that. That it was supposed to be to establish sort of a baseline, because what happens is your positivity rate, it's normally related to the reason why people get tested. And if the reason why people get tested is because they feel they have been infected, obviously the positivity rate is going to be high if everybody is driven to get a test. In other words, if everybody has a reason to get a test. While this blitz was designed to just test the community in general.
Yes.
Am I
Yes,
am I
this
correct?
blitz, what we were trying to do was do two things. A, make it available for people that were experiencing symptoms that thought they would be exposed. We also wanted to make it available for anyone that wanted to get a test. A, because we know that even if you are not displaying symptoms, it's possible for you to be asymptomatic. And so to your point, whenever we just capture the positive number, the cases of people that you're sick, it's always going to reflect a high number. This was an opportunity, and we were hoping it was an opportunity for us to get, now that the backlog of test results that the labs resolved that, we knew we would get really good turnaround, and we were hoping to be able to get a current snapshot. A couple of weeks ago when we were looking at the numbers, there was delays in reporting. And so the numbers that were coming in were, in some instances, 10 days old, 10, 12 days old. So this was an opportunity we were hoping to just get this is where we are as a community right here, right now, in this moment in time. Again, just a snapshot.
All right. So, and we sort of, after hearing so much about COVID-19, we also kind of figure out that the death rates are literally lagging behind the testing. So that you essentially have someone who normally dies took some time for it to get to that point. So that means to us that essentially what we have right now is what happened 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, right? I mean, what happened, meaning in the seriousness of the.
So when people see
peak.
those high rates, people sometimes you have to take into account that a lot of those people spent time in the hospital, or they maybe were released in the hospital and were in hospice, but there was a period of illness before that death actually happened. And then it has to go through the medical, it's either physician or medical examiner, but yes, to your point. So when we see those numbers, sometimes they are delayed. So you might be looking at, somebody that was hospitalized, spent some time. But the fact that we've gone 2 days straight is the best news we've had in a long time. And then that's what we want to see. So I know that the progress we're making sometimes seems really slow, but as long as it remains slow and steady, then at least we're moving in the right direction.
Why are the death rates at the hospital different than the ones we publish?
So when we report for the county, the death rates, that's vital records data. So the medical examiner, the physician, is who determines the cause of death. I know sometimes people think it's the health department that determines that, but that's not the case. So if you pass away at the hospital, they report that number. We have to verify your residency. So if you were a Yuma County resident, then that doesn't count in our case count. So if you maybe came from Mexico or you were visiting from another state and you unfortunately passed away, then that would not be a Yuma County death. And so we wouldn't report it, hence the variation in the numbers. Sometimes it's just an issue of it lagging, because we have to verify it through vital records, state vital record data.
Now, when I see some of the numbers, especially in the news media, when they publish the numbers, for example, in Imperial County, and they say something like 11,000 positives or 10,000 positives, and then they say there's so many active cases, and then there's so many recovered cases, and I get asked the question all the time, why don't we publish the recovered cases? Would you mind explaining what's the problem with that recovery number?
So there's a difference between, there's two distinct things you need to look at. Infectious period, which typically people say 14 days, is a typical incubation, but when we tell you after 14 days. And then there's recovered. Recovery looks different to different people. There's people that never showed symptoms, so they don't have any symptoms to recover from. There's people that were completely asymptomatic despite testing positive. And then there's people that, after those 14 days, maybe some of the symptoms resolve, and then 2 weeks later, they start experiencing symptoms again. So they're not truly recovered. There's people that it takes some weeks. It's people that, a few months later, they're still having lingering symptoms. And so saying recovered, when you look at the people that report recovered, because we've looked into it in media, there's different media outlets that have asked us that, and they've looked into it too. They look at that 14-day period. But 14 days does not, I don't feel comfortable saying you were recovered after 14 days because you might not be. And so, and it sounds like a very blunt way of saying it, but basically when you take the number of positive cases and you take the number of deaths, everybody else in between either recovered or is in some stage of recovery. Yeah. But 14 days, just having that 14-day metric is not true for everybody. It's not applicable.
Not only that, but there will be people that have lingering effects for a long time. I mean, from what I've read, and some of it's scientifically based, obviously, I hope. It's that some people have scarred lungs. They have things that they're going to be suffering with for the rest of their lives. Inflammation problems. So it's difficult for me. Every time I see that recovery rate, I keep going like, oh man, you keep pushing that recovery rate.
It's difficult. It's because you want to have some good news, and that's why it's not mandated. The state doesn't record them that way either. And it's difficult. It would require to truly picture us, for us to follow you from day one when our first case was in March, and call you and after a while, you don't want to talk about it. You're dealing. It's an emotional and physical. It takes emotional and physical toll on the patient. And so to truly capture recovered, you would have to contact that initial case.
And find out.
Yeah, every day.
Well, I've asked enough questions. Are there any questions from the staff? I mean, from the board, excuse me? Anything else?
Diana, one of the things, and to the chairman's point, Imperial Valley does active cases. And just like right here in Yuma County, as an active cases right now, there's like 642. And if you go 14 days back, you add them up, it's 642. So it's not, Imperial Valley, they do those both numbers. Recover, I don't, like you said, you're not comfortable with that, but active cases, I would like to start seeing that number.
14 days back.
14 days back.
Yeah. And that's why
because if you guys are giving 14 days, or the doctors, I mean, people go back to work after they're tested negative, and it's usually within 14 days. I mean, so that number is the real actual number that of active cases that are out in the county. So, seeing the 11,000 it seems like this is a never-ending
The
story.
cumulative cases.
You know.
And that's why, and I think sometimes people, when you click on, if you see the media releases or the Facebook post, you just see that chart that just has those highlights. If you actually click on it, it'll break it down, and county staff has gone through, you know, a lot of trouble to make sure there's charts and you can see the trend. But I see what you're saying. And if you look at that, like you just did, you can see that. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that feature, but it's a good time to remind them that that's there. It's also, if you click on it, you can see where testing opportunities are available. If there's updates for school, you can see that there. And I think sometimes people just see the post and don't realize that you can click on it and see, you know, additional information. Also, if you go to the county website and you click on the actual infographic, it'll give you more detailed information. And I don't think sometimes people realize that that's there. And there's graphs, and you can see the trend, the 7-day trend. You can compare different data. So it's a lot more detailed. And so thank you for pointing that out.
And, you know, and also I want to point out that I mean, I don't know if we need to do it, but since the date that the masks were mandated here in Yuma County and throughout the cities, and you can start seeing a trend after 14 days, then the numbers do go down. So masks make a difference, and I think that's something that maybe we should start pointing out, making people, those ones that don't believe in masks, the numbers prove it.
No, I have a particular question about antibody testing, because it's something that it's secondary to what we're doing, but it's still somewhat of a questionable issue out there. Some questions come from it. The first one, obviously, is once a person has had COVID, tested positive and had it, whether it was symptomatic or whether they had just minor symptoms or serious symptoms, the immunity process, now there's always that question, okay, how will I catch it again?
Right.
Now, before, I think sometime last week, or maybe even yesterday, the day before yesterday, there was really no scientific testing done to sort of narrow that down to, okay, well, you have antibody or immunity sort of like 3 months, and this is what I just heard. You know, they're all saying, well, at least for 3 months, you can't get it the same way you got it the first time. Mm-hmm. Because at one particular time, we thought antibody testing would let us determine who can get back to work without, you know, all the all the restrictions. Right. So are we still there? Is it 3 months, and after that, we can't really assure anyone that they're not gonna?
So again, because it's novel, we don't know if it's going to behave the way that other, you know, viruses behave. There's some things where, you know, certain viruses, particularly like the vaccine preventable ones like measles, that, you know, if you've gotten it once, it's, you know, it's unlikely you'll get it again. But then we have a flu vaccine that's a virus, and you have to get that every year because it might come back again. To your point, the standard guidance right now is that, you know, that 3 months seems to be what is for certain, for the most part, known. Again, until more people are tested and more follow-up is determined, that guidance is updated. But you know that you can test positive in some instances up to 3 months after initially testing positive, and that's because the tests still detect, you know, some of that viral content in there. So 3 months seems to be the last guidance that came out, that you know that at least for 3 months you have those antibodies. Again, how long those antibodies remain after that has yet to be seen.
Now, the numbers that the hospital is giving us, the latest numbers, are really encouraging in the number of people in the ICU, and the number of people in ventilators, and the number of people that are actually hospitalized, which in some way lends credence to the fact that it's sort of slowed down, and it's sort of less serious as it gets more into the general population, I suppose. But fact remains that if you're hospitalized and you're in a ventilator, your chances of survival are sort of less. Let's put it less positive than otherwise. But the fact is that the number of positive cases here, that's one of the what do you call it, guidelines that the state has sent. You know, you have to get below, I think it's 7 or 10% positivity rate. How in a county like Yuma, where you have such a large geographical problem, because we're next to Imperial Valley, we're next to the Mexican side, we're next to Baja California, how are we going to actually determine the positivity rate in the county if we get people, you know, from outside checking in?
So like you said, that's a challenge when you have, obviously people can go back and forth. It's a very mobile society. And again, that's where across the board, I know that we've had communication, for example, with our counterparts in Mexico, and they, about similar guidance in the mask implementation. So they've done similar things like that too. Imperial County actually issued a mask guidelines before we did. And so having uniform across the board sort of implementation of these mitigation strategies and being consistent is the only way we can achieve that. Because if it's not consistent, for example, in our county, if you have one municipality doing, masks or no, and another one not doing masks, then that creates that unevenness. And so people don't stay within, a given geographic location. We move around. So again, being able to maintain testing so that people have testing opportunities and they're accessible when they need them. And then working with the different sectors, like I know, for example, the ag community is looking at preparing for what they're going to do when the ag season starts up, and keeping, the workers safe and the workers' families safe. And so it's kind of that whole proactive planning, and testing definitely is a key component, and being able to get those test results as soon as possible so that you have, that opportunity to contact people and isolate people so to mitigate the spread. So again, even application of these things, it's the same thing for school districts. The state provided benchmarks, and the schools use these benchmarks to determine their internal policies. Even application across school districts is beneficial because, again, you might have different, children in different schools. So the more consistency we have with the application and supporting these mitigation strategies, the better, we can be at preventing the spread.
All right. Well, it's taken a long time. This was just supposed to be like a report, but we don't get you here that often. So, is there any other question?
One more question. So the blitz that you did this past week,
yes.
Did you get results or right away, or?
Yes. So the results for those, the disclaimer was it could take anywhere between 2 to 5 days, but we knew that we would expect them within 2 to 24 hours. 2 days to 24 to 48 hours. And that was the fact. So yes, we had people that tested on Tuesday, the very first day, and some of them got the results the next day or the following day. So far, it has not gone, it's been under 48 hours. So that was very encouraging. And we're hoping to see that kind of response time moving forward. And if it starts to lag behind, then again, that's where our outreach and advocacy efforts need to happen to make sure that that remains the same. But yes, everybody, and like I said, those numbers we've already reported. So the people that went in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we've already included those in the counts that we have released. So that's why we were encouraged by the low test numbers.
All right. Well, this was somewhat good news. I mean, between all the stuff that we get to hear about it. Any other questions before we let it go? Thank you very much. And again, we wanna remind everyone and say it again that we all think you're doing an excellent job, and
yes, you are.
And we have no other way to do that but to thank you for the good job you're doing, your excellent job that your department. I mean, obviously it's not just you and your department. And let me ask you one last question. When are flu vaccines available for the general public?
So we're gonna at least the health department will start making flu vaccine available in September. And so there's going to be other other community agencies, our FQACs, our community partners that are going to make that available as well. So we're hoping to be able to share that information as well in our daily updates. That's why it's important for people to log on there and see that. And they can come to the health department. We'll release more information, and also having awareness of where else in the community there's those opportunities, because we want to make sure that regardless of where you live, you have an accessible testing opportunity or a vaccine
accessibility.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Pancras?
I understand the pharmacies are already providing
flu
shots now.
I went to one of the pharmacies and I saw that it was available. So yeah, pharmacies, just like like we have a pharmacy in town that's doing COVID testing by appointment. So pharmacies typically do it. I know that, our FQAC and some of our clinics are going to be offering it. We're going to be offering, so hopefully there's plenty of opportunities. Stay tuned to those daily updates, because we don't just share our information, we share the information of our partners.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, we will promote all that too. And please get your flu shot.
Yeah, and lastly, but one of the good parts or one of the good outcomes out of this whole situation is people are washing their hands more often, they're using more antibacterial, they're being more careful about being in crowds. there are some good things that may help lower the incidence of flu.
We have a few months practice, so.
Yeah. All right.
Let's keep it going.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Diana. Anything else, guys, before we let it go? That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That takes care of that item, which is only the first item of the discussion and action items. And number 2 is the county administration discussion and possible action to approve a program to assist businesses in unincorporated Yuma County experiencing economic distress caused by COVID-19. Yeah, once we let the attorneys into it, it gets increasingly difficult. Ah, well, he's not listening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Ian McGahey, Deputy County Administrator. As you know, at your August 3rd meeting, the board requested information on a potential program to offer relief grants to businesses affected by COVID-19 located outside the incorporated area of Yuma County. Staff looked at municipalities and jurisdictions both inside and outside of Yuma County to see what they're doing or not doing, and those summaries, of course, are in your packet. As the Arizona CARES Act funds received by the county are specifically restricted to offset expenditures for salaries and EREs for public safety and public health employees, any allocation of funds towards such a project would have to come from the county's general fund contingency. However, after review by the county attorney's office, it was determined that use of general fund dollars for a business assistance program is severely restricted due to Arizona's gift clause.
Actually, Ann, they actually put in there not approved, which I didn't realize we were asking for, but you know, the attorneys are always good at that. They actually put in there the use of those monies are not approved. So that's pretty simple to understand, right?
So if there were direct allocations of federal funds that weren't subject to Arizona's gift clause, it could be a different situation, but unfortunately that is not the case here. So really that's what we have at this time. Staff will continue to look at options and see what might be viable that could pass muster. But right now, that's where we're at.
Yeah, Supervisor McLeod.
So how did the city of Yuma do it? Because they're using the same funds that we're proposing to use. How did they pull that off?
Mr. Chairman, if I could answer that.
Sure.
They're not using the same funds, Chairman McLeod. They're treating their funds as direct federal funds coming down from AZ Care without a restriction. I don't know the particulars behind that, but I did speak with the city attorney. We did have a meeting, and if that's so, and if we didn't have restrictions on our federal funds, we'd be able to do the same thing. So you see those other entities like Maricopa County or Phoenix or Pima, they got direct funding. It was just a pour through. So they're using federal funds pursuant to the Treasury guidelines that are provided, consistent with that. And the city is as well. But our funds under our certification, and then there's a contract agreement also attached to the air form. The certification isn't, but it certifies that we will use our funds solely for first responder type payroll, absent overtime. And that's it. And we indicate we won't use them for anything else, which does draw a surplus into your general fund.
Right.
But that's general fund dollars.
Yeah, may I suggest that, maybe we just ought to take a look at how we do this, as opposed to whether we can or cannot, is how can we legally do it. We do contribute to items like the YEDC. Right. So I suppose if YEDC had a program to support, businesses, we could actually fund that program as part of a contribution to economic development type thing, as opposed to simply creating a new program within to actually directly assist these businesses. It may be wiser for us to find a nonprofit entity that can do that and basically support the nonprofit's efforts to assist individuals with certain limitations.
Mr. Chairman, those discussions have been brought up, and I think that's the direction Ian's looking to go forward, and we'll assist with that as well.
Well, I just want to make sure that the general public and businesses understand that we're certainly sympathetic to the situation, and we'd like to find a way to help, but that county government is somewhat limited in what they can do with their funds. So if you guys could come back with a program, an assistance program that can be done by an outside entity that we can support, we certainly could look at that, Supervisor McLeod, as a way to complement and supplement some of the assistance that I'm sure it's already available through Small Business Administration or through some of the other entities that are supposed to be able to help directly these businesses that are in such dire straits. But we got to do something more than just show sympathy, and I think that's what we're all trying to do here, find a way to actually do something meaningful, especially considering the fact that it's been, this was supposed to be a 21 day closure, and it's been 6 months. It's understandable that some of these businesses are in a situation where they may not reopen unless they get some kind of assistance. And as a county, I think we're more than inclined to do so, as long as we can do so within the realm, the scope of, what authority we have. So if you could put together a program that we could support and it's basically vetted by the legal department, I'd be more than glad to look at it.
Great.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
So that would be the direction we give you. Is that fine?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, okay. We'll take a look at the details of such program at a subsequent meeting. And again, I do want to make a point before we leave this thing that assistance, in some ways, to me, for it to be meaningful, has to be timely. So, most of the stuff that we do, unfortunately, government, we study it too much, too long sometimes. And this is one of those programs where I think as soon as people are able to get back into businesses, we need to be ready to give them the assistance. So please do not take too long to come back for us with some sort of action, okay? All right. The next item is financial services. All special taxing districts, we have to establish or adopt property tax rates and assessment of taxes for all applicable Yuma County direct and overlapping general authorities, special districts, and improvement districts for fiscal year 2020-2021 pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, as indicated on the attached schedule. Before you begin, I do want to make a big, I call it a big statement, because I think people see us as somewhat of the taxing authority, which we are. But, I think I read the article in the paper said basically we don't set the tax rates. We just accept them as the different entities set them. We just accept them and make sure that they can be collected. So we are sort of like the pass-through entity that makes sure that it meets the statutory requirements for them to be assessed. But I do want to emphasize, we don't set the tax rates, okay?
Chairman, members of the board, Gil Villegas, Chief Financial Officer, that is absolutely correct. The Board of Supervisors is only responsible to adopting the tax rates for the general fund, jail, library district, debt service and operations, flood control, and all the improvement districts under the supervision of the Board of Supervisors. Everybody else, they have their own entity who adopts their rates, they set the levy, and they communicate that to us so we can put it together in this list that I have created for you, and we can pass that to the assessors at the Treasurer's Office. So this item relates to a statutory requirement that we need to do on a yearly basis. We need to set the rates, and we need to send those to the PTOC, Property Tax Oversight Committee, and usually I copy ATRA, the Arizona Tax Research Association, as well, with a list of the taxing authorities that we have. This year we have 9 new tax authorities coming online. 3 of them are in school districts. 2 are new special districts, and they have to do with Martinez Lake, the fire district that they have created, and we are required to provide some assistance to their funding. We have 2 new city improvement districts, both of them with the city of San Luis, and we have 2 new county improvement districts. There are no other significant changes noted, pretty much the same rates, no significant increases to that. Anything else that I could answer for the board? Otherwise, I will ask to approve the motion.
I don't think we have much choice. I think I just made that clear. I mean, looking at some of the districts. I mean, the city of Somerton, city of San Luis, town of Welton. I mean, some of those have primary tax rates. The city of Yuma, and mostly schools and colleges. I mean, when your tax bill has 12, different taxing, entities, normally 4 or 5 may have, something directly with us. The rest of it are more like irrigation districts or school districts or, primary taxes. We we found ourselves being the messenger, and that's really, this is kind of situation that every year whenever people receive the tax bill, I get the calls, hey, why is this thing? I said, well, talk to your school district or talk to your irrigation district. I do want to emphasize that as far as I'm concerned, this board has been very, very conservative in the taxing rates that we have set. And even this year, I think we try to even lower the tax rate so that essentially, we're trying to minimize as much as possible the impact of anything that we manage. But fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which way you look at it, we have absolutely no control about what school districts do or irrigation districts or cities and towns. That's their prerogative. But so we're asked to accept this, and I think we have very little choice. We have already set our rates. So unless you want to get back into trying to discuss that, I would say we're pretty much limited to what we can do today.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention that I had the opportunity to work with the, like I said, assessor's office, the treasurer, and the school superintendent. So we have already reviewed the rates. We're making sure that those are the rates that those local entities have accepted. So.
No, Tom is really popular. I'll have to blame him for something.
In the last 2 years.
Tom is really popular. We have to, blame him for something. He's in charge of the schools and authorities.
The last 2 years, we have done a lot of changes, a lot of improvements to this spreadsheet, and we continue to do so with the help of the assessor's office and the treasurer's office. So it looks a lot more cleaner. We're still working on those improvement districts, Yuma County improvement districts that we would like to solve. We're just having a sidebar with the assessors a minute ago that we believe that some of those districts can be turned over or sent to the some of the cities, especially the city of San Luis. So pretty soon we're going to put together that list, and so we can bring it before the board for dissolution.
Just for curiosity's sake, and I know you may not have the answer off the top of your head, but are we talking about hundreds of improvement districts? Hundreds, right? Not just tens.
146, I believe, are improvement districts, Yuma County improvement districts.
Wow, 146.
100 from San Luis, you said?
No. No, but 50 from Covington, 50 from San Luis. No.
Hey,
look, I mean, years ago.
In the entire state, Yuma County is the only one that has that many.
Yeah, and you know why? Because it's very fashionable to create improvement districts for street lights, for parks, for those kind of things that used to be more like city responsibility. Now every new subdivision, and I've spoken as a developer, every new subdivision has to have a parks and recreation improvement district, has to have a street lighting improvement district, retention basins improvement districts, water and sewer. The cities have now made sure that new development pays their way in the future, not just at the time they get created, but in the future. That is good and bad, because what happens is cities are now in a situation where they're really not, they're only responsible for assessments. They're not really, and for delivering the service. But in reality, most of those improvement districts, and I'll make that clear. If you build a subdivision in Yuma County, we don't ask people to create improvement districts for street lights or those type of things. I don't even think we have the authority. We may have the authority, we just never used it. But we're not at that level of development, and that's one of the reasons why people go out and develop in the county. There's a lot less restrictions, that we put on them to develop fully. Here, Craig Sellers, I was talking good about him, and he stepped up.
They serve a great
So our
purpose.
development services are they really help and cooperate with developers in a way that, unfortunately is not happening throughout. Anyway, so I didn't want to get in the soapbox like that, but I did. So we have all these tax rates that we have to accept, basically, and set. Is there any more discussion on them or any more complaining about them? No? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the item as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Bipartisan approach. There's been a motion and a second to approve the overlapping taxing authorities' rates and levies. Any more discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gil, and thanks for all that information. It's overwhelming, but anyway. We'll then move on to a series of items, 4, 5, and 6, which are basically they're basically requesting the county attorney to seek an order of abatement in Superior Court. The first one is for zoning case number.
Good job.
Are we closing the door? All right. Okay, so the first one is discussion and possible action to request the county attorney to seek an order of abatement in Superior Court for zoning case 19H0190 located in 11378 South Rene Avenue in Yuma, Arizona. All right, you cleaning your hands out of this thing, huh?
Yeah, trying to take the necessary precautions, but, and I want
Yeah,
to clean everything.
I try that all the time with Russell. I tried it with Russell, it doesn't work.
Okay, so yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is a discussion concerning referral of 3 cases to the county attorney's office. I'm not sure if you want to open all 3 of them at the same time or just open one.
If we can, I would. I mean, can we? 4 of them, actually? Is it 3 or 4?
There's 4, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the first one is case number 19H0190. The second one is case number HO200039, located at 4144 West 3rd Street, Yuma. The third one is zoning case 19-H-0144, located at 13184 East 41st Street in Yuma, Arizona. And and the fourth one is zoning case number 19H0129, located at 16489 South Highway 95 in Somerton, Arizona. All right, we can take them, we can discuss them in general, but we're probably going to have to take decisions on them individually.
Correct. So the first case is a property located at 11378 South Rene Avenue. The parcel is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance. It went to the hearing officer, and the hearing officer found the property in violation on July 2nd and imposed a civil sanction. The property remains in violation of the zoning ordinance.
Was the fine paid?
Let me ask, oh, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Was the fine paid?
No.
Let me ask a question. Are these all complaints by someone, or are these initiated by the county?
Mr. Chairman, all zoning violations that are taken to the hearing officer are based on complaints either by a member of the general public, or some of them are taken to the hearing officer as a result of building permit reviews where something is out of compliance with the zoning ordinance during the review process.
Okay, so what it
These
bails?
are all complaints that were received from the general public.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So the property, again, is located on the west side of Rene Avenue, south side of 35th Street in the foothills area. These are 2 aerial images of the property, the condition of the property. The RV located, shown on the south side of the property is no longer there on this property. The pictures were taken July 27th. This is the current condition of the property. There are numerous boxes, cardboard boxes. Some of them are empty, some of them are full with junk and discarded clothing, material, trash, and debris.
Oh my goodness.
Another picture. This is taken looking west on Rene Avenue. This is from the northeast corner of the property.
Now, is that
what's been removed?
Is that the one that's been removed?
No, this this RV still remains on the property.
Oh.
Like I said, just
Oh, this was
general
July.
trash and debris throughout the property. Discarded
Couple of weeks ago.
items, plastic items, metal items.
Where the RV that was removed is just the other side of where that white car is.
I see it.
Yeah, I think that RV is on the property.
It's on another
next door.
property.
The second.
But the other one was near about where that trailer's at right now.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
And I suppose the owner has been contacted, he's gone through the process, they've been asked, they're given time to remove the items.
Yes, property was notified of the owner was notified of violations. They were served to appear before the hearing officer. They did not appear at the hearings and made no attempt to clean the property.
Nobody lives there, do they?
When I went out there to inspect the properties on one occasion, there was somebody at the property. She claimed that she would work on cleaning the property up, but nothing ever happened.
Okay.
When I made contact with her, I believe she was living in that car.
Yeah.
Oh, she was living in the car?
Okay, so that was that one. Do you guys want to make a motion and get them done before we get back? I mean, this one, we might as well do that. Otherwise, we end up with a very confusing situation. So you have any questions? The board? If you don't have any questions, and if you're ready to decide it, I'll entertain a motion to refer the case to the county attorney's office for abatement.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 19-H-0190.
So it would be a motion to refer the case to the county attorney for abatement.
I'll second it.
Been a motion and a second on this particular case, 11378 South Renee Avenue, to refer the case to the county attorney office for abatement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And I want to emphasize before we move on to the next one, that question is going to be asked every time. Have we done enough? Have we tried to contact the owners, and have they been noticed, and so forth? I suppose that by the time it gets to us, every available resource that we could utilize to let them know what the seriousness of the situation has been extenuated, correct?
Correct.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, for all zoning violation cases, the initial contact is with a courtesy notice of violation to notify the property owner that of the violations that are on the property. They're given 30 days to clean the property. At times, the property owners contact staff to get options or to get information as to how to bring the property into compliance. As with the previous case, there's times when they never contact staff. They just, either by telephone or in person, there is no contact ever made, other than the letters that staff sends. And again, this case, they were sent initially a notice of, courtesy notice of violation. After the property was not brought into compliance, they were referred to the hearing officer. The property was found in violation, and there was a civil sanction imposed. This case specifically, located at 4144 West 3rd Street, has been taken to the hearing officer or has been heard by the hearing officer twice.
So this has been almost a 3-year process to get to
Yes.
this point.
So the property is located at 3rd Street and 41st Avenue. So aerial images of the property. Pictures were taken July 27th of this year.
Let me, before you move on, let me ask you a question, and maybe the attorney can answer this, but it seems to me like nowadays, most of the time when you take a picture of someone or something that has some identifying mark on it, you have to be careful not to have that publicly be seen by somebody else. Now, I see pictures here of a red, Nissan and that brown, and all of them have their plates exposed. Do we run any liability for publishing this stuff?
I'm not aware of any statute that would not allow that. I don't believe it to be personal identifying information. We do stuff like that for crime victims to ensure their identity is preserved and not put out there. Certainly we could do it in these if that's something the board would like, but I'm not aware of any statutory requirement at this time.
But I would say that just to err on the side of caution, that when we take pictures that we don't have permission to publish that identify someone, that we take the time to blur them out a little so that at least, I mean, I don't know who they are, but I'm certainly, if somebody took a picture of my car, my plates, which has happened before, I wish they'd have let me know before it comes out. I mean, I just saw myself dropping some, my ballots in I told the news media, I mean, I know you know me, but, at least let me know, so just a comment.
Oh, you made it, huh?
So this is the current condition of the property. There's several inoperable vehicles off of 41st Avenue. There's discarded mattresses, junk. That trailer is just a trailer that was taken apart and left on the side of the road there. Again, more pictures
Well,
of the front.
You know, I wouldn't mind so much the trees. I think the trees are okay. They don't look that bad. But that picture there just takes it to another level.
Yes. Yeah, the palm trees, there's dry fronds on them.
Yeah.
It's fire hazard.
Especially that area, extreme fire danger in there.
Junk, like I said, along the front of the property, along the side of the property, as you can see on this picture. Another inoperable vehicle. Inoperable vehicle. And staff is recommending that the case be referred to the county attorney's office for abatement.
It's pretty tough to argue not to.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and second to refer the case to the county attorney. I was going to read well, it's 4144 West 3rd Street, right? So that would be the case.
It's HO 20-0039.
Okay, let the record reflect that that's what the motion's about. Anybody have any more questions or?
So 3 years till today?
To get to this point?
To get it this
To
way.
get it this far?
Mr. Chairman, the case was originally taken to the hearing officer in 2017, and then again to the hearing officer earlier this year.
But it's been 3 years.
Yes.
I mean, since the complaints were put in.
Correct.
And, okay.
Right, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We'll take on the third one.
Mr. Chairman, the next case is 19H0144, located at 184 East 44th Street, or I'm sorry, 41st Street. Again, this case was, the complaint was received on August 30th, 2019. It was heard by the hearing officer on July 2nd. The property failed to be brought into compliance. There was a previous zoning violation in 2018, and again, a civil sanction was imposed. So this is the second time the hearing officer has heard the case. Property is located at northeast corner of Dorothy and 41st Street. Pictures were taken July 27th. This picture shows that red truck is inoperable. It doesn't have the front wheels or tires.
I thought it was just high.
I think this Mercedes is inoperable. It doesn't have license tags or plates.
What about the RV?
The RV is allowed to be stored on the property. Both of these cars are inoperable.
See, just by looking at that, it's someone from Florida, right?
The property is also in violation for having multiple dwelling units. They can have 2 occupied dwelling units. They have 3 occupied dwelling units. Both of these recreational vehicles are hooked up to sewer and electricity.
Oh. They're only allowed, they have the 1 residence and they're allowed 2 additional.
Oh, one.
Oh, one.
1 additional.
You see, the rest of the pictures weren't that bad. This one is bad.
Yes.
Well,
So
the
yes,
fact that they
this
have so
property
many
has a utility trailer full of junk. And then there's also some junk under the patio.
Let me ask you a question. That looks like, back it up a little bit, but that looks like it's almost in a sidewalk in there when it turns around. Is it the right of way?
It's on county right of way.
All right, no, I'm not going to. Okay, continue. It looked like it was outside the property line, that's why.
Again, these RVs, there's junk leaning on the recreational vehicles. And like I said, they're both hooked up to services. You can see the sewer line on this one specifically.
Wow.
more junk right next to the recreational vehicles.
A very nice plate in the back.
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends that the case be referred to the county attorney's office for abatement.
I move case number H020-0039.
No, Mr. Chairman, it's 19H0144.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry. 19H0144 be
Sent to abatement.
referred to the county attorney's office.
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? And again, other than the fact that there's a lot of junk stuff in the back, people could argue that, that they're gonna fix the cars or something. I mean, sometimes you just need to, we need to all understand that these people have been given plenty of time to fix the vehicles, to move the vehicles, to unhook what's, the violation is, that essentially, by the time it gets to us, you have extenuated every possible accommodation that can be made with the owners of the property, to the point now that the only option left to be able to fix the problem is to get legal.
I think that one car with the Florida plate expired in 16 or 18, so it hasn't been operated in at least 2 years.
Mr. Chair?
Sure, Supervisor.
Maggie, when it goes to the county attorney's office, can you tell me what happens now?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pankowski, I'll defer that to the county attorney's office.
John, what happens now?
Once it's referred for abatement, we do continue to try to find out why the underlying issue is, that they're not complying. Sometimes there's some issues that may be related to physical resources or something to that effect. But eventually, these are questions that the court will ask as well. If an order of abatement is issued by the court and it's found generally not to be, and the individual or the property owner is not in compliance, the court calls them back in and wants to know why. They can be held in contempt and so forth. But it's still a process that allows that due process to continue with the property owner to, and we do always seek at any time voluntary compliance. That's always the best route.
What about the fact that, what if they don't show up for court?
Get a default judgment.
And then what happens?
And you have your abatement order, and then if they don't comply with the abatement order, then notify the court, and the court will do an order to show cause why they shouldn't be held in contempt.
Okay.
At some particular point.
At what time do they take action and get rid of all that stuff that's on their property?
Whatever the timeline the court sets up for them.
Okay.
And then at that point, the county would go in and clean it and then file a lien against the property?
Not all the time on these abatements. When it's a really big health issue or something, I could see something like that happening. Maybe the structure is going to fall down, or people could get hurt. You have an emergency, but these are property owners. They have to take care of their property.
Yeah, I think that you're following this process to the end, which is when you just can't get anyone to.
I'm just curious because I've got several properties that have been in abatement for a year or more, and not a lot's being done. And I'm just curious at what point, it's kind of like going to the hearing officer. You assess them a fine, but if they don't pay it, there's no teeth behind it. What can you do? Or if they come and pay the fine, we drop it again, and then you have to start all over. It frustrates a lot of the neighbors that have to deal with the junk and the issues that come with having this type of a residence in their neighborhood. And it's just, at what point can we give them some relief? Is what I'm kind of wondering is how long do we work with these people to get it cleaned up? At what point do we say, okay, 3 years from now, that's enough? You know what I mean? It just.
I think it switches from us to the court system and the enforcement side. That's the thing, and I think that's what it's getting down to now. I mean, I think we have extenuated every kind of leverage that we could possibly use. The hearing officer is part of that legal process, but at this particular point in time, it seems nothing has worked. So we're moving it into a higher level of enforcement, which would be the court system and the enforcement side, the legal enforcement.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying once it gets past the hearing officer, because like I said, once it goes to abatement, planning and zoning is pretty much out of it, correct? you guys are, it goes to the courts.
Well,
And then it's just getting the courts to move on it.
right, there's still a monitoring process that takes place because we have to notify the court. That's the purpose of the photographs and identifying evidence. But you got to understand, these are last resorts. I think Chairman Reyes was right. A lot of things have already been done to this point. Most people comply right away. And even when you get a fine from the hearing officer, my understanding is if you comply within a certain period of time and notify the hearing officer, they waive the fine. It's an incentive to do it. Some people just don't realize that their actions are upsetting their neighbors, and they take care of it. And then you have these few cases like this,
just
a handful of cases that are just very difficult to deal with, and they're sensitive in nature. These are property owners. Sometimes they have, they just are unable to do what they need to do, and the court and we all tend to work together. It has to get done, but we try to do it in a way that's as sensitive as it possibly can be to everybody involved, all stakeholders.
Well, it's like that one that was almost 3 years old, and the neighbors have been putting up with it for 3 years, and this process will take time.
Yeah. And then I think sometimes they start to comply. You know, I don't want to go into the weeds too much because I don't want to be the one you guys are telling me to come back to the agenda. It's my job. But, you know, sometimes they start to comply and they do things, and you see that compliance and you want to work with them, and it does take time, especially if they're elderly or they have lack of resources. And then something happens and it kind of, like this virus, it just bounces back. And then you have to keep doing it and doing it. And most of the times, I would say 95% of the time, you're getting a good result. And then you have a few cases.
Yeah. Since we're talking about this and we talk about options, you know, I would like to suggest an option that may be a little bit odd, but because it involves, you know, bringing in a different department. But, you know, I do remember that every once in a while the county gets involved in a feel-good project, which would be to help somebody elderly or something, clean up their yard and do that kind of stuff. And we do it through the juvenile detention facility, probation department, that there may come a time where you want to put together something that basically says, look, if you can't do it, because you can't pay, maybe we can help you out, at least with the manpower to do this, if you're willing to pay for the materials and stuff. I mean, something that works out that way. I mean, our intent is to fix the problem. It's not to punish the person necessarily, but to fix the problem. And sometimes that requires us to step a little outside the enforcement side, which is what we deal with a lot of the time, and get into the solution side, which is, you know, some people may just not be willing to admit they just can't handle it. They don't know what to do with a junk card, or they don't know how to take it out of their yard, and they don't want to pay the tow company because they don't, whatever. So sometimes we may want to set up a system or set up a program that basically an outside program of people who can volunteer being the, you know, the word, but I mean, you know, that we do have some programs in the probation department and the court system and the juvenile system department that may be able to assist people who run into that issue. And let's go back to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next property is case number 19H0129, located at 16489 South.
What is it?
Mr. Chairman, you didn't vote on that last one, on
Didn't?
item number 6.
All right, well, let's take a vote item number 6, which was the one prior to this one. Was it the one prior to this one?
Then can you make a motion, Russell?
Yeah, a motion and a second was made.
Yeah.
It's just that I didn't take it through the process of voting. No more discussion on that item. There was been too much discussion. Pass the item. So all those in favor of the item signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries, and we'll go back to this item. This is the one in 16489 South Highway 95 Somerton.
Correct.
I'm gonna have to say something. That's not Somerton. I mean, I know, honestly. I mean, I'm just saying because it's actually
The
closer
zip
to
code,
San
yeah.
Luis. But do you go by the zip code with this, or I mean, because that's county.
Mr. Chairman, the way properties are addressed, it's based on the county's addressing policy, so depending on where the property is within a certain
Yeah,
zip
look, I
code,
used to live in County 17 and a
they're
half in
assigned as
Avenue
Somerton,
A, and it was
Yuma,
Somerton.
or
It's
Gadsden address.
8536352.
I'm just saying because it's kind of like, you know, when something well, anyways, Just for the record, it's not Somerton.
It's not in the city.
It's not in the city of Somerton.
It's not within the
not in
city of
the
Somerton,
city
it's
of
within the
Somerton.
zip code.
The
of Somerton.
city deals with this kind of issues, but
Yeah.
they take about 3 or 4 months.
Before it starts burning down, it'll take 3 or 4 months to talk
I
about.
just had to.
Then they send the mayor, with some sort of, heavy-handed approach. But anyway, no, it's true.
Nothing
I mean,
against you, Maggie, I'm just saying.
it's true. I mean, it's true what he's saying. I mean, it's Somerton zip code, which is probably how we, have seen some of these addresses. It's a Somerton zip code. It's 85350. And normally, if it's within that zip code, it would be considered Somerton, even though it's not an incorporated area of Somerton. It's the zip code. Same thing with San Luis. The zip code, there's a zip code that covers Gaston. As a matter of fact, we have that problem right now in San Luis. Some of the areas in San Luis are 85336, which is in Gaston for us. But now it's the city of San Luis. So it's a little confusing, Mayor. Former Mayor, excuse me. I understand. He's just trying to, protect the reputation of the city of Somerton. But okay, so continue with the Somerton problem.
Mr. Chairman, this complaint
Might as well hang it up.
received in August of 2019. It was heard by the hearing officer on June 4th, 2020. The hearing officer found the property in violation and imposed a civil sanction. Again, the property is located off of Highway 95 and County 16.5 Street
In the county of Yuma.
in the county. These pictures were taken July 27th. This is a picture from the front of the property showing the current condition of the property. The vehicles that you see in the pictures are inoperable.
I thought it was Hollywood there for a minute, but.
There's a second residence, huh?
There's a residence, not sure if that RV is being stored or it doesn't look like it's connected.
Doesn't look like
to
it's hooked up.
services. But there is junk throughout the property, miscellaneous junk items. Again, more pictures of the inoperable vehicles.
We may have to contact Somerton.
More inoperable vehicles. These two vehicles and the bed of a pickup truck here, it looks like it's on the outside of the property line. They could belong to the property owner, but they're not on the property itself. Stuff covered with trash bags or underneath trash and plastic. Burned
Burned
debris.
out.
This is the rear of the property. You can't see this area from the front of the property, but it's got, again, miscellaneous junk, wood, metal items. And staff recommends that this case be referred to the county attorney's office for a hearing.
All right.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor
Maggie, like when, who sets the fines? Who sets it? The hearing officer?
Yes. The hearing officer sets the fine.
So is that by state statute or?
Yes, it's based on the type of case, so there are certain limits that the hearing officer can impose.
So in this process, we do need a hearing officer? I mean, do we have to send it to a hearing officer, or can we go straight to the court?
No, it's already been done.
Already been to the
It
hearing
went to the
officer.
hearing officer.
Yeah, but I mean, on cases like this, let's say you get a case today, do you have to send it to the hearing officer, or can it go straight to the court?
Mr. Chairman, the preferred method is to take a case to the hearing officer before it's referred to the hearing officer, before it's referred to the county
That's
attorney's
preferred, but it's not mandatory, or is it? Do we have to?
The statutes say we have to, yeah.
I don't think it's required that it go to the hearing officer.
And the point that I'm getting, Mr. Chair, and the rest of the board members is that it just, I'm with Supervisor Simmons. I mean, some of these cases just take too long. I mean, I sent pictures to Susan not too long ago, and I think to Craig, about a property that I got complaints. I mean, I was getting calls every day. And this was back in May, I believe, or in April. But what this does to you, to your department, it makes you look bad, because that's the first thing that people say. Well, they don't do anything, you know. And it's getting to that point on some of the cases that it's just, you know, too long. I mean, I understand what the attorney said a while ago, that maybe, you know, some people don't have the money or the manpower to move things, or but there's some people that take advantage of the hearing officer or of the process, because they pay the fine. Say, I can keep that junk for another 6 months. If it's only $150 or $250, they'll pay it. I mean, and I'm pretty sure you've seen that. So to what point? Because honestly, the neighbors are the ones that suffer, and we get the calls. At least I have. I mean,
I do too.
And so you know, and we tell, because I've told those persons that call me and say, you know, it's a process, and they get to the point that is, well, the county, it's blah blah blah, and you know, they're not doing anything. They don't care.
Mr. Chairman, another option that we give to property owners is that they also can take their neighbors to court. If there's a cause of action, they can also file their own case in court to compel their neighbors to clean up their properties.
But
Most of
that's
them
where it gets
don't
frustrating,
take that
though.
route.
And like I said, not with you, but again, take it to court. The county's taking it to court, and we're not getting any action taken. And we tell them to.
How are they
going
to get any action?
How are they going to get any action or relief? See what I'm saying? We're trying to come in, and we understand you guys are just, you guys don't have a lot of choice in the process, and the county attorney doesn't either. But there's got to be some relief for all these people that live around these dumps, because that's more or less what they are dumps inside residential neighborhoods.
Just a question to Susan. Susan or even Paul, didn't we put something for the CSA legislator last year, or about abandoned vehicles? Was it abandoned vehicles or junk like this? And it, yeah, but it didn't go through, huh? It didn't move.
It didn't move through the legislative process? No.
And I think that's something that we need to start pushing more, you know, because I think, you know, cities have they move on these things kind of things quickly, and they don't. I don't think they have a hearing officer. They send them. You know, you don't clean it up. The city goes in and they put a lien on the property, because sometimes it's just living next to someone that. And I think you saw the pictures that I sent from that I mean trailer. I mean it is bad, and it just so. Just something that we can do quicker, or
yeah, Supervisor Porches. I think that you're now starting to feel the frustration that befalls most county supervisors when they found out after being mayor, which I talk about myself, how powerless you become once you become a county supervisor and have to follow all kinds of state laws and regulations that preclude everything that you think you can do has to be vetted by attorneys, and that really gets a little dicey here. You know, we have to follow a process. We have to, as a matter of fact, you know, it's getting more and more complicated to even deal with these issues because of privacy issues, because of things like I just mentioned, liability issues, going into private property. I feel what you're saying. I felt it a long time ago. And I think the best we can do is try to see what kind of, you know, speed up the process if it's possible, so that even though we have to take it one step at a time, those steps are shortened, so that at least, you know, if it's going to go to abatement, if someone hasn't done something in 6 months or 12 months, maybe we ought to skip a couple of, you know, time frames and just squeeze the process, so that if we have a complaint, we give it 12 months and it's got to be resolved, or it's in court. That way we just simply say, okay, well, it didn't take us 3 years. I mean, it took us 12 months to get it to someone that can make it happen.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And I like what you're saying, things you're saying, but I want to bring us back to the agenda. I know this is kind of related, but I will tell you, in my office recently, we've had discussions about creating a better criteria to be able to do these types of things. And if we could move on to this agenda
Yeah.
item, we could
Okay,
come back
well,
later.
we'll
date
put it
with
up in
some-
the agenda. We'll have you'll go ahead and look at ways to expedite this process, the complaint process and the resolution process to the complaint process, okay? Supervisor.
I was just asking if our dates, the dates that we do are mandated by statute or if we could change them, but we're going off, so.
Yeah, I think we're gonna put this item up. I think it's important enough to bring it on its own to see what we can, to give us a better sense of why it takes so long and what we can do to shorten the process. Is that okay? Okay?
Mr. Chairman, for this case specifically, some of the delay was caused by inability to serve the property owner or to, I believe that the first notice of violation or the courtesy notice came back as undeliverable. Staff had to go back and research for a different address for this specific property owner. Once we were able to get the letter to be delivered, once the case got referred to the hearing officer, there was an inability to serve the property because nobody lives on that property or serve the property owner. So that's what caused some of the delays for the property overall of Highway 95.
Okay. Well, we're gonna
This one
continue.
moved pretty quick in comparison to the others, though.
And I think that's probably frustration showing up. I mean, it's frustrating when you can't find someone to be responsible for something. And I think that kind of moves the process faster because it's not, you got to get to that point where enforcement takes place instead of trying to abate the situation. We get into enforcement. All right, well, this is an opportunity to get there.
I was going to say too, understand that, planning and zoning and developmental services, your guys' hands are tied too, as far as how fast it can get through the process, because it's got to go to the hearing officer and then it's up to him. So, just to make sure people understand that, you guys are doing what you can, but the process sometimes slows it down.
Well, it's due process. So let's get off the legal stuff and let's get into the motion here. So we try to contact the property owner. He's been warned. We try to do everything that we possibly can within the county development services. And so we're now down to referring the case to the county attorney's office for legal abatement. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move to request the county attorney.
For the Somerton property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me finish. I'll say the address. Move to request the county attorney to seek an abatement order for case 19-H-0129 located at 16489 South Highway 95
County
/ Yuma County, Somerton.
I'll second that motion.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right, there's been a motion to go ahead and send the case to abatement, the case in Somerton to abatement, the abatement process. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, that takes care of that one.
Thank you, Maggie.
The next item for discussion is, I think I'm gonna move item number 8 to the end. For some reason, it got put in there, but, I mean, we have some planning and zoning agenda items that I'd like to get through before we get to that reporting section.
Okay.
We have a reversion, public hearing. So in accordance with section 404.01, parentheses, I think it's I, in parentheses 7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, the board will conduct a hearing to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, determine compliance with the schedule for development or cause the property to revert to its former zoning. This will be a development services planning and zoning division rezoning case number 05-24 in accordance with section that again of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, action to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development or cause the property to revert to its former rural area 10-acre minimum zoning classifications from assessor's parcel number 728-24-126 and 728-16-003 and 728-08-023 located in the vicinity of 44th Street and Avenue 14E in Yuma, Arizona.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Juan Leandro Rubio, Senior Panel with the Planning and Zoning Division. You did my presentation. So this is the vicinity map that shows the subject property, and this is going to be an easy case because we're all on board. Staff is recommending an extension. The applicant is here, and we met with the applicant last week, and in a project assessment, they're going to proceed with submitting for a plat. So this is the aerial imagery that shows the current vacant land, open desert. And as you said, there was a condition that was not met. This was the schedule for development that all required improvements, including the filing and approval of tentative plat, the final plan, and the posting of the assurances, which are part of the subject parcels, into 6 or more lots within 3 years of approval, or the rezoning will be reviewed to revert back to the RA 10 zoning district. This has not been done. That's why we're here. And the deadline to comply with the schedule for development was July 20th of 2020. Like I said before, staff is recommending that the board grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, since they're on board and they're going to proceed with this project in the near future. We are recommending a 5-year extension of time to comply with the schedule for development. And that concludes my presentation.
Why 5 years? I mean, if you have some things that need to be met relatively soon.
Chairman Reyes, when we first started looking into the case for an extension, I had discussions with office staff, and this is what was recommended. A few weeks later, I was in contact with the agent, and the agent actually expressed interest within the last 7 days or so in doing the project assessment. So had we known, we probably would have maybe recommending a shorter time frame.
So in other words, you were trying to accommodate the fact that this is a project that it makes sense for that area, so you were giving it enough time to sort of pick up steam and get going, but you now found out that this is sort of moving the process forward a little faster than you thought. I've always said that I am a pro-development guy, and I don't mind saying that. And so, any chance and any opportunity we give someone that wants to develop an area, especially if it makes sense with that area, as long as they are willing to cover the needs and support the infrastructure necessary to make sure that development is appropriate, I'd be more than glad to support it. I'll let the board, decide that, but I'm going to turn this into the public hearing. And well, if you have any questions, before I turn it into a public hearing, which it must be my old age. I'm always confused about reversion hearings because I don't know. Sometimes I think it's not a public hearing. Sometimes I think it is a public hearing, but this time it's a full presentation, so it is a public hearing. All right, so I'm opening it up to the public. Is there anyone here in the public that wants to address the board? If not, I'm turning it back to the board for their decision.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the 5-year extension on rezoning case number 5-24.
Okay.
Second.
Then a motion and second to approve the staff recommendation of an extension of time of 5 years to comply with the SFD. Any discussion on the item? No. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries. I'm going to then go back to item number 8, which will be discussion and possible action regarding the following legislative items: a report to the Board of Supervisors regarding proposed bills in the Arizona State Legislature with impact to Yuma County, and updates regarding strategies relating to federal legislative priorities. Paul?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Paul Melcher, Director of Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Chairman, since the board's been getting some daily updates, I just had some other highlights that have come forward just recently. The first one, and Mr. Chairman, as you're aware, since you're also the chairman of the Western Arizona Economic Development District, the district we had applied and had supported through Yuma County several months ago regarding the formal development of the district again. The district had been in operation in the late 1990s. However, through some process, they had lost all the paperwork that had formally formalized the creation of the district. So we had to go back from scratch, get all the paperwork again. So I just want to let the board know that as of July 1st, the board is officially functioning again. Also, in support of those board activities, Executive Director Alan Pruitt had applied for a revolving loan fund support through the CARES Act. And we wanted to report back that through that revolving loan fund request, EDA, Economic Development Administration at the federal level, has funded it with $800,000 worth of capital, with another $100,000 worth of support that would be to be able to track all of the programs and provide some office support for that program. So that revolving loan fund could be added. The good news about that is that we didn't have to provide any match for it. Originally, there was some concern about what that match might look like. However, the fund could be added to from other sources. So we're at least looking to get that revolving loan fund established. And so I'll be providing more information to the Board of Supervisors when that becomes available. In terms of the state, just wanted to let the board know or provide that update that the state is extending unemployment benefits in concert with the federal government to the tune of benefits of $540 per week. At the federal level, there's going to be action this week sometime in the House regarding reorganization of the United States Postal Service. Not sure exactly what form of action that will take, but House Leader Nancy Pelosi had called the House back from recess to deal specifically with this item. So there's some anticipated action this week. However, there has still not been any further discussion regarding any stimulus bills. In addition to the updates I provided you on the President's executive orders related to the extension of unemployment benefits. Mr. Chairman, the other thing I wanted to provide for the board was that, as usual, I know it seems to be odd that we're still in the middle of the pandemic and everything. However, I'll be working to start establishing our federal policy objectives for next year, in addition to any state ones that we might want to develop for September, October, November, in anticipation of some NACO action moving forward. If NACO rolls over the legislative priorities again, we'll see how we can do if we need any emergency items. However, anticipating there might be some NACO conference again in February, we'll want to roll those up to see what we can do if there are indeed Hill visits from that perspective. Mr. Chairman, yes, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question about travel. Do we as a county have a travel policy right now restricting travel from employees? Maybe Susan can answer that.
I issued a memo to all departments to restrict non-essential travel, and so they're determining what's essential and what's not.
Okay. All right. I just wondered because it's going to come up. The CSA meetings. It's going to come up pretty, relatively soon. Okay. So continue. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, actually, that was the end of my presentation and update. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Do we have any questions? It looks to me like we don't have any questions, which is lucky for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. All right. The next item is the event calendar and current events and board members and county administrators. Did I miss one?
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
I have an addendum.
There's an addendum.
Where is it?
There you go.
Thank you, my man. I have an addendum. Addendum number 1. County attorney. Oh, no wonder. I was trying to forget it. County attorney authorize and approve the contract and agreement between Carpal Solutions and Yuma County, the purpose of which is to provide internet-based software hosting to the Yuma County attorney and authorize the chairman to execute said agreement and contract. Oh, I shouldn't have let Paul go. Now he reminds me of the broadband issue. Go ahead, Mr. County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I apologize for this late submittal. This is a process that started off a few meetings ago. You folks approved a grant process where we were approached by ACJC to update our very archaic case management software into this program so that we could plug directly into the state and they can get numbers real time. It's a big benefit for the state to have this, so much so that they've agreed to pay for the first year and the cost to install the new software. At the same time, we'll run simultaneously with Time Matters. The issue I have is we've been trying to do this virtually, review this contract particularly through virtual means, so it still goes back and forth. Legally, we're satisfied with the terminology in this contract as presented. I will tell you that the IT technical team is still reviewing some final spots to it. So if you do agree to authorize the chairman to sign this, I would ask it be done subject to final technical review by ITS. And I can answer any questions you have.
Anything that can help improve the current situation that we have with the internet, it's a welcome.
Well, this is actually something where if we had this in place today, my attorneys could work on leave outside the office and access their files directly. We could also take it up to the courtroom when the Wi-Fi's at a better spot there.
So
And be
it would
able to
make the-
access through tablet means all our files and evidence right there as well.
Will it make the attorney's life easier?
Make it life easier?
Yeah.
Not,
Oh, well,
no,
because,
because
you know, it's gonna
what
be a
happens
little
when
bit-
you add a
I
new
have no problem
program
with
into
that.
anything and you have to relearn it. It's going to be very difficult and painful for the first 2 years, I would imagine. But it's something we absolutely need to do. And with ACJC offering the grant money through the federal government, we thought at the time was right, even though we're in these COVID positions. The training is going to be difficult because we'll do it in sections. We can't bring everybody in. But who knows where we're going to be. I think our last date to go live is sometime in March, and we're shooting for December. So we do have a little window there to work with. But I just needed to get this before you because it's just subject to that technical review. I think it's ready to go.
Okay. All right. You heard the presentation. Are there any questions from the county attorney? And if not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And again, I'd like to clarify that approve as presented, subject to final technical review by ITS.
Yes.
Subject to me refusing to sign it?
We'll bring you back we'll ensure you have the final copy when we bring it to you.
Okay, the item has been presented. It's been discussed. It's been motioned and second. Anybody else has any comments? If not, then all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move on to event calendar, current events. Board member and county administrator will report and may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county, may present a brief summary of current events, and may update the schedule for future Board of Supervisors meeting as appropriate. Supervisor Pancrasi, I know you're struggling with the mask, but
I know, I just
put
took it
don't
off.
put it on.
Huh? Leave it
Don't
on?
put it, no, don't. I mean, it's fine. I think it's okay.
I attended the Yuma County Annex Phase 2 meeting, and it was very, very, very good. And then I volunteered for the Blitz testing, and I worked all day Friday at the COVID-19 Blitz testing, and it was very interesting. I didn't get to interact with the people driving in because I worked with 2 nurses and a nurse practitioner who did the contact with the person accessing the test, but I did the paperwork and picked up the bags, and I called myself the bag lady that day, and it was eye-opening for me. So I want to thank all those people who worked it. It was hot, and from 10 o'clock on, it was mighty hot out there, but from 6 a.m. on, I mean, we worked all the way till 12:30. It was well worth it, and a lot of people drove through our line and did the self-administering test, and I'm glad to hear that they're getting their tests back so quickly. Also, there is a blood drive out at the Civic Center on Tuesday and Wednesday, so we need blood badly in the state of Arizona. So I've volunteered to give blood, and I would wish that everybody who can and has the time would make an appointment. It's in the newspaper, so you can get the phone number from there, or call YRMC and get the information to be able to make an appointment to give blood. Thanks.
Okay, Supervisor McLeod?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following our special session on Thursday, I jumped online with the Community Prosperity Summit, and we had a lot of speakers, so it was interesting. Also attended what's called a BARD webinar, B-A-R-D. I apologize, I don't remember what the acronym means, but it's Israeli grant opportunities for ag in our area that have not previously been explored. So hopefully we'll get some grants, and that'll work with the Desert Center for Excellence in Agriculture.
Oh, good.
And also attended the Annex Planning meeting, and I agree with Supervisor Pancrasi. I thought it went quite well.
Sorry, that's why I always keep them silent.
All right. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Supervisor Simmons?
Just the usual things here lately.
Yeah.
I want to encourage everybody to drink lots of water with this heat and keep an eye on your elderly neighbors. I've noticed a upswing in heat-related deaths around the county. So take care of your neighbors and take care of yourself.
Supervisor Porches, any reports on something?
No, not much.
You got to put in the good word for it. All right. I want to bring back to the discussion the possibility of including some discussion on internet. Oh, you're next? Yeah, but after I finish, don't I? Don't I go first and then you go last?
Oh, yes, you're
All
right.
Well, I'm
Excuse me, I
starting
thought
right.
you had
I got
already
this
done
note
your
here. I got to
talking for
get
the
up.
day.
First of all, I want to tell the rest of the board that particular situation with the assistance for businesses and everything we've been trying to do, it's good. And the disappointing part to me has always been how we cannot seem to activate something really quick. It takes time. It takes time. But I'm used to it. After 20-some years of doing this, I'm used to it being somewhat slow. But I missed the opportunity to tell Paul, which I've already mentioned it to Sue, that there's been a discussion throughout the years on broadband. The internet service in the outlying areas of the county and the small rural areas like Somerton and San Luis is really poor.
Well,
With this school systems being on the internet now, the most complained part of the system is that kids are in school and then they drop off or something, and we've been talking about broadband reaching some of the rural areas for years now. This may be, to me, it may present, what I mean is the COVID situation may present an opportunity for us to move up those plans in ways to improve the availability of internet service in the outlying areas, because it's really been, sorry. And I know that when it comes to us only in the sense that somebody wants to put up a new antenna, which everybody has a problem with. But in reality, there are so many dead spots now, between here in Somerton, or between here in San Luis, or between here in Welton, or between here in Martinez Lake, that essentially, we have a major problem, and it's been brought to the forefront just because of all this need that we have right now to supply, to basically connect. Because when the county attorney was mentioning his issue about internet service and improving some of that connectivity, that's really a big problem out in the county. And I wonder whether, and I know that we had the discussion about how we can spend this money, this COVID money, on helping businesses, how we could look for a way to utilize some of this funding to improve the internet service or connectivity in some of the outlying areas. I know it may be something we need to do in conjunction with the private sector or something, but we need to at least look at it. So I want to I want to take the opportunity to not only ask Susan to put it up as an item for discussion, but actually to do a little bit of review and see where we're at and what can, if anything, be done to help that process come along. Now in San Luis, I think it's Quest, it's a CenturyLink now, I think, has brought in, what's that called? What's that internet service that comes in a little fiber optic? I mean, whatever. Fiber optic used to be the fastest service that you could ever get, and it's now in San Luis, but it's only in a very small area, of development. And I'm concerned that people living out in the county really have no options available to them in improvement. Our cities can contract for better service, and they can, public Wi-Fi is available in some of the areas, but out in the county, they really are in the middle of nowhere with no means of communication. So I just wanted to, bring that up. Also, we don't have a meeting on September the 7th. Remember, it's what's it?
Labor Day.
Labor Day, so we moved to the 9th. There's a meeting. I hope you all got this message from CSA that they want to, research whether they're going to have an on-person meeting or a fully, or digital meeting.
Or virtual.
Yeah, it's October 21st to 23rd. So just keep that in mind if you want to go to any of these meetings. This is in Yavapai County. that you make your arrangements. I hope that by then this situation would be a little more under control. People feel a little safer about going places. It's tough to know, but something to plan for. That's it. Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The broadband issue is going to be on the September 9th agenda for an update. Paul's been working very diligently with a number of people on a broadband action team, including all the economic development directors and UIEDC across the county.
Great to
So
hear.
you'll be hearing about that on September 9th. I'm continuing our messaging to employees on our plans for reopening, as well as the procedure that we'll use here in 198 South Main Street. So I'll distribute that this morning to all the employees to get them started thinking about it. We're going to implement the changes to procedures August 24th, so next Monday, which will include temperature checks, self-temperature checks by employees, and then visitors will have the department come and meet them, do their temperature, and then take them back to their appointments. Working with the attorneys and the health department, as well as Paul Brierly with U of A on the contract for services that the board had approved on for the $220,000 we need to identify for that contribution, what will we be receiving in exchange. So that agreement will be coming back to you. And CSA has held a number of PSPRS actuarial assumption meetings to talk about how we can help the PSPRS board change the assumptions so that we're not annually underfunding PSPRS. We're also going to be looking at some alternatives for potentially bonds to prepay PSPRS and at a lower interest rate than we would otherwise have to do, to also reduce our unfunded liability. And we held a virtual city-county managers meeting last week, which was really great to see my colleagues across the state and share everybody's experiences and their success stories in dealing with this issue. So it was a very, very good supportive meeting. And that concludes my report.
A question, that IC meeting, what is it? ICM, what is it? ICMA meeting in Toronto, Canada, is there in the agenda because you were thinking of going?
The ICMA conference is going to be virtual this year in September, so there will not be one actually in Canada. It will be virtual, but I will participate on it virtually.
Okay, so your report's done, our report is done. We have a work session scheduled within this meeting, so we're going to, there was a question about whether Craig was ready to give out a report because he had some meetings coming up, but we've asked him to sort of give us an update. It's not, we know it's not going to be a final report on it, but it's something that, it's an issue that is forefront in the minds of a lot of us. So Craig, the work session is for discussion and action. Development Service will provide an overview of land application of biosolids and septic on agricultural land in South County.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, George Amaya, Environmental Programs for Development Services. I'm here to provide an update regarding the agricultural practice of biosolids land application at a particular site in Yuma County. Development Services had a meeting with ADEQ to discuss the findings of the report, and during that meeting, ADEQ stated that they would only provide general information related to the biosolids program and not provide specific details, as there is an ongoing review of the potential deficiencies noted on that report. Again, if you keep in mind, as a reminder, this all came to be that there was a public complaint related to odors and flies within the general vicinity of South Avenue B and County 19th Street. With that being said, the anticipated discussion on the domestic septic application and other organic residuals was also not discussed, but that was reserved for a future meeting. That meeting will be held this Friday on August the 21st. So having said that, I do want to provide you the information that ADQ can provide Yuma County, and that is mainly the general background to the biosolids program. In Arizona, ADQ is the program administrator for biosolids application. Registration is required with ADEQ to land applied biosolids. In addition to the registration, the applicant must list all generators of which they receive biosolids from. The generator is typically a wastewater facility that produces biosolids, but at the same time further treats the biosolids to render Class A or Class B. To prepare biosolids for land application requires a general permit from ADEQ, that is the AZIPT's general permit. And both, aside from the general permit and the registration to land apply, there are environmental factors to consider. Depth of groundwater, setbacks from residential properties, best management practices, and pollutant loading concentrations, just to name a few of those requirements. Both the general permit and the registration to land apply also require a public notice that typically circulates in the local paper for 2 consecutive weeks. And in addition to the public notice, the AZIPT's general permit only requires a public comment period, of which anybody can provide feedback to ADEQ on the proposed permit. All this information, the regulations, are governed by Title 18, Chapter 9, Articles 9 and 10 of the Arizona Administrative Code. On the subject of public notice, relating to the 6,000 additional acres for land acquisition to this point, Development Services does not know the status of that public notice. However, it is an item for discussion on our follow-up meeting this Friday, August the 21st. With that being said, that is the update that I have for you today regarding the communication with ADEQ and the biosolids operation. Do you have any questions?
Well, Supervisor Pancras.
Sorry.
I was taking my mask off right quick.
Yes,
say something,
George, I'd like to attend that meeting. Can you give me the information, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Supervisor Pancrazzi, we can share that information regarding our follow-up meeting with
Thank you.
And if I'm not there, I do want to make a point that needs to be, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be taken to them. You know, there's the real problem, and then there's the perceived problem. There's always those two situations that happen all the time. The real problem is obviously to us the fact that it's very difficult to justify adding another 6,000 acres to a situation that's already bad. You know, the perception is bad. The perception that, you know, that biosolids, let's call it that, for lack of another expression, the biosolids that are brought in from California are injected in soil in Yuma County, and most of that is near, you know, let's just not say that it's near houses, because that's questionable. I mean, 1,000 feet away from homes, right? But the fact is they're applied almost next to highways, which means that people go by there and obviously can't escape it. But the second thing, and that the most important part that I think should be taken into consideration, is they're now being applied next to edible stuff, human edible stuff. I mean, they're being applied next to date palms. They're being applied next to, you know, human, people consume that. And maybe it isn't, you know, maybe the relationship between one and the other in terms of contamination, you know, it's tough to make. I mean, because, you know, we don't know how far it, you know, we don't know how the water table, you know, it's contaminated or not, whatever. But the perception that you have from knowledgeable consumers about where the products they eat are produced puts them in the middle of between the biosolid injections and a landfill. We talked about the landfill being a problem to begin with back then. Back then, the date producers were concerned that that may give the competition an edge up and saying, hey, look, I mean, these things are produced next to, you know, a landfill. Well, now we have on one side the landfill, and the other side the injection, the biosolid injection. I don't know if we can prove a real relation between them, a real connection between them, but I can tell you right now that the perception, it's going to be a problem no matter what. Yeah. And so, you know, sometimes that becomes more a reality, especially in a competitive field. And date growing, date palms and the date production in Yuma County has increased exponentially. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's great. But it is moving in the direction where these biosolids are being injected, and that concerns me. Eventually, that is a big part of our produce industry. It's a big part of our economic development. And so that also that point needs to be made. I mean, sometimes there are things that are not compatible. You know, I know that injecting biosolids for items or for crops that are going to be consumed by horses and so forth, cows maybe, you know, and that the connection is kind of made very far. But the fact that they're being injected next to, you know, date palms and so forth concerns me. And it should be brought out as one of the reasons why, if we can't stop what's going on, let's not broaden it, you know, by adding another 6,000 feet. I mean, 6,000 acres, excuse me. 6,000 acres is a lot of land. And I don't know how
That's why I
much.
brought it up.
It's just a huge, immense amount of land. I mean, how much biosolids can we take from California? And that's going to become an issue, a quality of life issue for that area if it grows that much. So I just want to make that point.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. When they use these biosolids, it totally limits as far as what crops they can grow, because they can't do consumable crops no more. I don't know if that's forever or if there's a time frame, but also if you're looking at down the road, are you able to build? Say somebody wants to put a residential subdivision out there, can they build on that? So, to me, by allowing this, we're really restrictive on what we can do in the future. I mean, what are we doing? You know, now it's great, but down the road, you know, I just don't see it being good for our kids, grandkids.
For the future of development in Yuma County in general. Supervisor?
Besides, California produces it, California takes care of it.
Should take care of it.
Yes, and,
take care of it
Chairman
now.
Reyes, members of the board, the concerns are well taken regarding the adjoining agricultural practices, and to your point, Supervisor Simmons, future development in the area. But as of now, we patiently wait for ADQ's determination or plan of action, if any. To our knowledge right now, the operation is compliant with their approvals for registration and the AZIPT's general permit until further notice.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor McCullough?
Frank, if I'm not mistaken, we really have no authority to stop it, do we?
Well, Supervisor McLeod, as I mentioned, the program administrator for the application of BOSOL is ADQ. They approve the sites, register the land, and also conduct inspections. At this point, they have identified deficiencies. There may be a direct link to what is being landed by or the best management practices that could turn out to, if addressed or found deficient, could have a significant impact in the concerns related to odors and flies. But yes, this is a permitted operation from ADQ. I checked, as an example, on other regulations with our planning and zoning director, Maggie Castro. I consulted with her regarding the agricultural land, and it is agricultural exempt. It fits the criteria within the county zoning ordinance, the 5 contiguous acres or more, and it is an agricultural practice.
You know, we also don't control water transfers, but that doesn't mean we're not impacted by them, and we make the point. So this is one of those situations where we may not be the permitting agency, but we certainly need to make sure that our constituents and the Department of Environmental Quality Control, you know, realize how difficult that has become for us to justify.
That's right. We need to get our local legislators.
Yeah, that's
on
right,
board.
and we need to talk to our legislators and say, look, I mean, some of this stuff is, you know, we're dealing with the after effects. I mean, they're getting the benefits, but we're dealing with the after effects, and there is no good. I can't think of any good side to it for the county itself. It may be good for the agricultural unit that uses that, but it's certainly not good for the neighborhood or for the perception of the general public in terms of, you know, why are we allowing this to happen? They may not realize, as Supervisor McLeod just pointed out, that we don't permit it, and we also have very few tools to stop it, but we sure as hell gonna try.
Yes, exactly.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, that is an item that Director Craig Stillers and myself have been working with ADQ, is improving that communication on permitting allowed by ADQ within Yuma County. It's right, there may be facilities that our department may not be aware of that ADQ permits. As an example, we do have this public notice that was captured in the local newspaper But with that being said, that again, we are working with ADQ and improving that communication, so we are aware of facilities that they may permit moving forward.
Well, there's a reason why there's a public notice. I mean, it's obvious to me that it's because, you know, this can't happen in the dark of night. I mean, so, you know, some of this process maybe not required because the decision would necessarily take into account whatever public comments there is. But as far as I'm concerned, we're making it public. We don't really like it. I mean, we may not have anything to do with what's happening already because it's already happened, but we certainly don't look forward to having any of this thing be widespread in the future, because 6,000 acres may be the beginning of 10 or 12,000 or 15,000. So we need to talk to our legislators and make sure that they give us the tools necessary to, if not control it, manage it in a way that it doesn't impact the rest of the agricultural production in Yuma County or the development of Yuma County, South County, or the area where this is. I'm not sure where the 6,000 acres are, but whatever they are, they're a substantial amount of land. Very large.
It's all over Yuma County, because I know there's fields out east, or land out east that uses the same thing. So like I said, it's not just South County, it's a countywide issue.
Yeah, and development, the ability to develop is, unless we use our precious farmland, is east.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in this case, south. I mean, we do have, the city of San Luis, I'm sure, will have something to say if it starts to encroach in the area that they think is developable. Or where the Rowley Airfield is, which is pretty close to where this is happening. It'd be pretty difficult to conceive that the smell wouldn't get to a point where if you had some private travelers on the jet, that they wouldn't object to smelling that before they land. Let's not get into a lot of that stuff, but I think we made our point. And we want to thank you for the update.
I just have a comment. You know, what everyone here mentioned, I mean, we really need to look at it. And unfortunately, like, you know, we don't have any, you know, much control of it, or any control of it at all. But I looked into this when I was a mayor for the city of Somerton, because the smell and the flies at certain times of the year, I mean, you can't be outside. And honestly, I remember
We worked on it.
you were there as a state senator.
State senator.
I don't recall. Do you recall seeing a supervisor there for Yuma County?
That's because we held hearings before that.
But we had several meetings, and in fact, ADQ came down. They gave us a presentation.
I'm gonna tell Leonore you said that.
But it's gonna get to the point in the future that if we don't wanna encroach or develop in farmland, we're gonna have to look into the mesa, and it's not gonna be able to happen, be used. So, but
I have
Go
one
ahead,
more
sure.
comment.
Go ahead.
We did some testing back when Martine and I worked on this, and there was an issue with E. coli and salmonella. And U of A did some tests for us, and Orange Grove Elementary School had significant E. coli and salmonella from the flies that was to the point that the school would have their recesses inside during that time because the flies were so bad.
Members of the board, I do recall the independent fly studies performed by the Yuma County Pest Abatement District and the University of Arizona.
Yes.
They identified potential sources of fly breeding sites, which included the biosolid sites, the sanitary landfill, and the solid waste disposal site. In reviewing the findings, a positive note on, at least from the 2017 report that I recall was, yes, they did identify the potential transmission of pathogens. Overall, the flies that they trapped and tested, the rate of the severe strain of E. coli was 5%.
Any kind of E. coli is not good, whether it's under the limit or not, so.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say one thing real quick. Craig, George, thank you guys for staying on top of this.
Yes,
And
appreciate
informing
it.
us, because just listening to you talk, you've done a lot of reading and studying on this, and just thank both of you guys for staying on top of it and keeping us informed.
Yeah, and continue to lobby as hard as you can,
Fight for
you know,
us,
not
yes.
to, you know, not to simply allow it to happen because we have no particular direct control. You know, there are a lot of things we don't have direct control that we have some substantial interest on. This is one of those situations where we are saying, look, guys, I mean, it's bad enough that we already have it and we can't stop it, but to broaden this, you know, knowing how difficult it is to manage the possible outcomes, it's just asking for trouble. I mean, I don't see how we're, you know, ever going to be able to justify having this crap brought in from California and, you know, deposited in Yuma County soil without, you know, having something to say about it.
I agree.
So thank you very much again, and keep us informed, and let's hope that we have something to say about it, or that at least the county has something to say about what's happening in this large, you know, this large area. And, you know, not knowing exactly where it's going to be located, it seems to me makes it even worse.
Just
Send me the
one more
information on the meeting.
question.
Sure.
Does ADQ send letters or notifies the landowners around that area? They don't?
Surrounding area?
Supervisor Porteous, members of the board, to my knowledge, in relation to the land application of biosolids, I know they do not send notices to the affected area on the potential permitting. For the land application, it does require the public notice, and again, that is placed in your local newspaper. No additional notices to the affected area. And again, that is something that Development Services is working with ADQ to have that information ahead of time of facilities or operations that they will permit.
And I think maybe just something for at least for ours or the county to do is send letters to at least the growers that are around that, especially the date growers that are in that area.
In the areas to be, and, that to be used.
Just, I mean, because they're, you know, if we want to really make a loud voice, we need them to support this, or, I mean, to be against this, to send a message to the state, because, I mean, next 5 more years are going to be 8,000 more acres.
To add to that, Supervisor Porteous, members of the board, we do have the AZIP's general permit, and that only comes into play when we have a site that prepares biosolids to render Class A and Class B. That AZIP's general permit requires a public comment period. The AZIP's general permit is valid for 5 years, so that is an opportunity to provide feedback on that proposal.
Are we still in that comment period?
To my knowledge, Supervisor Pancrazzi, the AZIP's general permit is currently active. On our follow-up with ADQ, we will find out when that general permit expires. And when it does expire, they will have to resubmit to approval for that permit again.
Go ahead,
Chair,
Supervisor.
the additional 6,000 acres has already been approved?
Supervisor Pancrazzi, members of the board, to our knowledge, the status is unknown, but that is a discussion item for this Friday, August.
Yeah, because George, it hasn't been that long since it was in the paper, because I sent it to Susan as soon as I got it, so.
Yeah, that would be part of Friday's discussion.
All right. Any other comments? I think you can take back with you the more than an impression that we are certainly opposed to any additional. We're opposed to the project as it is, much less support in widening the project or, you know, broadening the project at all. So just make sure that the ADQ, you know, gets that from us. It might have been wise for us to send something, you know, on paper. Because this is an action item anyway. It's been put up as an
I
action.
sent a letter back when this first came out, and I've heard zero from them. And I
How
think
about
that's
writing a letter from all 5 of us, signed by all 5 of us? What I'm saying is, what about
I think
drafting
that
a
would be
letter in
great.
opposition?
I don't think you can take action right now.
Yes, we
It's
can.
not a discussion item.
Well, it is.
I mean, it's not an action item.
It is. It says what? Read the way it's listed.
Staff will provide an overview of land application of biosolids and septage on agricultural land in South County, no action requested.
No, well, no action is requested, but it is an action item. Read the heading on the item.
The opening says that you may take action on.
That's right. That's what it says.
If it's something as simple as.
As simple as drafting a letter in opposition signed by all 4 supervisors should be something we could do.
I move that we submit a letter to ADEQ in opposition to the additional 6,000 acres that's being proposed for.
Well, let's see what they find out on Friday.
Yeah, well, it's a common side. So for us to take a position, I think is wise. Get ahead of the situation. I mean, we may not have the impact that we want, but certainly taking a position would be something that I would recommend before it gets any further down the road. So an action item here would be just a recommendation that we write, or a motion that
I'll
we
second.
write a letter.
We need a motion if you're all going to sign it. We could have something drafted up and individually you each sign it.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
remember,
you.
this is
Directing
coming,
staff to do
this is
something
coming
else.
up
Okay,
on
I direct staff that
Friday,
they will,
so we
please.
need to get this thing done before Wednesday. Okay? Thanks, Mr. Amaya. Muchas
Thank you.
gracias.
Chairman Reyes,
Thank
members
you.
of the board, thank you.
You want to withdraw your motion so it's not lingering?
Yeah.
I withdraw my motion.
I like lingering motions. All right, so that was direction given to staff, okay? I thought that if we all signed it, it was a motion. I thought if we all signed it, it was action, right? It's the majority of the board. So legally, you got us into trouble.
Well, I mean, don't you want to see what it says first?
No? I just said,
Not like I'm
the
throwing a
motion was to
contract in front
draft
of you
a
that
letter
I'm not
in
even
opposition, right? And have it signed by the chairman and the members of the board, which is an action item right there. All right, having cleared that through legal, and having there no more business to attend to, I hereby close this meeting this morning. You can go back to some